Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Professor Sides, and this course is Principles of Microeconomics, Chapter 7, Consumers, Producers, and the Efficiency of Markets. In this segment of the lectures, we're going to talk about consumer surplus. And when we talk about consumer surplus, basically what we're talking about is the difference between a consumer's willingness to pay, WTP, from the last lecture, and what they actually buy. So I may be willing to pay $250 for an iPad, but if I only spend $160, the difference between the $250 and the $160 is my consumer surplus. And I experience, in a real sense, satisfaction with my purchase because I was willing to pay $250, but I actually paid less than that. So I'm going to feel really good about that purchase. Again, we talk about the difference here. Consumer surplus is the willingness to pay from the last lecture minus the price we actually paid. And in this example, again, remember Anthony had 250, Chad 175, Flea 300, and John 125. If we use Flea as the example, she was willing to spend $300 for an iPod. But if the price was only $260, then the difference between $300 and $260 is $40. So the consumer surplus is $40. We also understand consumer surplus because it is the desirability of market outcome, and it is based on the assumption that you, the consumer, are rational. And if you are rational about your spending, then I, as the economist or the analyst that is trying to understand welfare or study welfare economics, then I must respect your preferences. In this case, we could look at Flea and say, why would Flea be willing to spend $300 for an iPod? Again, we talk about some inferences we can make about Flea, but at the end of the analysis, it makes no difference because we have to assume that Flea operates as a rational consumer. Now, when we graph out consumer surplus, you will see that it looks very much similar to the willingness to pay demand curve. Remember the stair steps? But what I want you to pay attention to is the area under the stair step, because that's the picture or the graphical representation of consumer surplus. Remember, Flea's willingness to pay is here at 300. Now, if she only paid 260, then the area between 300 and 260 is graphically represented as the consumer surplus. And so the $40 would be the blue area that you see here. This concludes our lecture on consumer surplus, understanding consumer surplus in terms of the formula and in terms of graphical representation. The next segment of our lecture, we're going to switch our focus from consumer to producers, and we're going to talk about producer surplus. I look forward to speaking to you soon.